Hello, we're back from our holidays, and yes, we did get married. It worked. She said yes. Thank God for that. Yeah, here we are, back in Herschbach, back at the organ. And yeah, we wanted to get a video posted yesterday, but we literally only just got back from a holiday a couple of days ago, and it's been a bit hectic trying to catch up with everything, so we had to do it a day late. And somebody has decided, because it's a nice sunny day, they're going to do some work around the church outside, and there's someone outside there with a saw cutting things up. I don't know who it is. I can't every time I go out to find out who it is, he runs away. So yeah, excuse the sound in the background of someone doing some manual labor. We can't change that. So anyway, it's a nice sunny day. We're back in the church, and let's talk organs. So today we're back at the organ in Herschbach, and we're going to look at one of the most important aspects of organ playing internationally. I would say it's number 2 on the list of most important things an organist has to be able to do, and it's improvising. Right at the top, I would say you're going to have your repertoire, you know, the sort of classical pieces, or the pieces of music that have, you know, you buy in written form and you learn them and you play them. That's repertoire. And then the next most important thing, I would say, would be improvisation. Why is improvisation so important to an organist? Well, at certain points throughout a church service, the organist has a chance to sort of fill in some gaps, as it were. So, for example, here in Herschbach, this is a Catholic church, so every Mass service we have, of course, is a communion service. So the congregation goes to the front to receive communion, and during that time, the organist can play a piece of music or improvise a piece of music. I do both, but normally I would improvise a piece of music. Why would I do that? Well, think about it. Yeah? You don't know how many people are going to be here, and you don't know how long the communion part of the service is going to last. You don't know how long the people are going to take to get to the front, get back to the places. That you don't then know how long the priest's going to take to, you know, wash up at the altar once it's all over. So, you know, it's sort of, you have to sort of judge it, and then it's easier to improvise a piece of music than to play a set piece of music. What if it's too long? Or what if that piece of music is way too short? What are you going to do then? So that's something an organist has to learn to do, is improvise. Before we get into the meat of improvising, I want to have a quick word with you about something. Something positive, of course. Thank you. Thank you very much for continuing to support our channel. We've got our Steady and Patreon memberships, and of course PayPal me for those one-time donations. And it's all gratefully received, and a number of people have been asking recently, well, you know, at the beginning you mentioned these things and you said you wanted to buy some new microphones. Well, you've got those new microphones, so what are you doing with the money now? Well, it's quite simple. Everything that comes in goes towards the channel, of course, and you know we travel around to various places to visit different organs, and so on and so on. And you know we're constantly I'm buying new software, for example, to you know help edit videos. I'm using Adobe Premiere now, which is much better. So you know it's going towards things like that. I haven't bought the software. I've bought that sort of monthly subscription to it, and that helps with that. But there is actually a rather large idea I've had, and I've been in touch with a couple of people who sort of know what they're talking about in these things, and also people who sell what we're looking for. And quite a while back I did a sort of a short video when we were at home. It was one of those days where the weather was really bad and we couldn't get out. There was snow everywhere, I think, back in winter time, and we couldn't get out. And I sort of showed people that there's this software, the sample software that controls organ sounds. It's called Hauptwerk. And what it does, if you have a dedicated console, let's say a 2-3 manual console with pedals, and sort of over a MIDI system, it sort of it plays back sampled organs, real organs, actual organs in actual churches that have been sampled. And there are church organs, there are theatre organs, there are different kinds of organs throughout the history of the organ world, and so on and so on. And it's a really wonderful system, and I've always been on the lookout for a private system that I can install at home so that, you know, I can practice at home and I can also present things at home. I can do maybe a course and, you know, how to learn the organ or these improvising things. I could do it from the comfort of my own home. Wouldn't that be great? And I've been in touch with a couple of sort of people who offer solutions for Hauptwerk. That's what we're going to call it, solutions. And what I would be looking at is a sort of a 3 manual console. 2 is all right, but 3 would be better for sort of variety. You can get 4 and 5 manual consoles too, but that's just showing off. We don't need that. So a small sort of 3 manual console, maybe something that's mobile that we could move around, take to places, yeah, take to other churches or schools or whatever to show off the organ. And and then of course buy a couple of samples of different kinds of organs to show what we can do there. So that's going to be the next big investment. And it is a bit of a big investment because sort of a dedicated console with all the trimmings, with all the bits and pieces you need, you're looking at least 8,000 euros, at least, and that's a very small system. And obviously I can't afford anything like that, and I certainly don't expect people to sort of say, okay, well, we'll fund that for you. That's not what this is about. Like I say, I'm working with a couple of firms at the moment that offer this kind of thing, and maybe we can sort of build up a sort of a deal where I get a system from them at a greatly reduced cost, but at the same time I'm advertising their products. Okay, so that's what we're working on at the moment. So donations that come in the next few weeks and months will probably go towards something along those lines. We'll have to wait and see what we can work out, but that's my sort of next financial target, as it were. And of course, we're very grateful to any offers that come in from you. Thank you. So enough of that. Let's get back to the world of improvising. Have you ever been to an organ concert and you've sat through the concert and the organist has been playing lots of different pieces of official repertoire throughout the history of organ music, as it were, and then suddenly at the end of the concert it says improvisation, and then you've got the organist's name and probably year of birth and things like that. So, and the organist then chooses a couple of stops at the organ, sits and strokes his beard for a bit, thinks for a minute, and then does that for 10 minutes. Oh, obviously the residents of Herschbach didn't like that either, judging by that. I think we'll wait till the tooting is over. The tooting has stopped. I think that was a rather large wedding party driving past. That's rather cute. So yeah, there's that kind of improvising, which is just basically, obviously there is some thought behind it, yeah, but to the untrained ear, it just sounds like someone with boxing gloves or elbows playing the organ. There is, of course, then my kind of improvising, my jazzy stuff. That's improvising. Basically, anything you make up is improvising. That's improvising. It's sort of not really thought out improvising, but improvising is just basically making it up as you go along. And that's what it sounds like to a lot of people, and that's what it is sometimes. If you go to, I'm not going to mention any names of any organist, but if you go to some concerts where it says improvisation, and you sort of think, I could do that. Yeah. They start with 2 notes. And then and it's allegedly based on some theme. And then towards the end of the sort of the twinky bit, you get this little theme, a sort of snippets of the theme that come in. You think, now I recognize what they're doing. Yep, it's a very long and complicated process to learn how to improvise like that. And there are some organists who do it really, really, really well. And even if it is sort of that weird modern stuff, you can still understand what they're doing. And you sort of think, I recognize the theme that's behind it. Yeah? So let's dig into that a little bit deeper. So learning improvising, where do you start? Where does it come from? What do you need to be able to do? And a couple of people have asked me recently, how did you learn to improvise? And the answer is, I can't remember. And that's the truthful answer. I really cannot remember. My first organ teacher only taught me repertoire. Yeah, we started off with sort of basic pieces of music for technique, and we sort of built up to more complicated pieces and so on. And then I went off to university, where I had my second organ teacher, and he also only taught me repertoire. And when I got to my third organ teacher, which also when I was at university, he started teaching me sort of some basics of improvising. The problem is, of course, I had been an organist for the last 5 years, so I was already having to improvise things in church services while I was playing. So I sort of taught myself to improvise in a certain way. And that was based on me also being a jazz piano player in various bands. When, you know, even as a young guy, I was playing jazz piano in different bands, and you know, when you're playing in that kind of genre, you need to be able to improvise as well. So I took that kind of improvising, the basics of it, and transformed that into my churchy improvising, and that's what I'm going to show you today. When you start learning to improvise, at least if you want to learn to improvise properly, you very quickly realize that there's sort of a few very important factors that you have to consider. For example, form. What form am I going to improvise in? What does that mean? Is it going to be, am I just going to start playing and hope that I somehow get to the end somehow? Or am I going to have a sort of structure to my improvisation? I'm going to start off with an introduction, then there will be a theme, then there will be a variation on that theme, then I'll go back to the theme, then I'll move on. So you've got a sort of part A, part B, part A again, blah, 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 and so on. So you have a form. Yeah? If you think of a classical piece of music, or even a piece of pop music, they've all got a form. Yeah? So classic jazz pieces are going to have 32 bars. Yeah? So you've got 8 bars, that's normally repeated, so there's 16. Then you have a sort of a B part, which is a sort of a bridge. And then at the end, another A part, another 8 bars, just like at the beginning. So A, A, B, A, that would be the form of that piece of music. Part 2 would be maybe the rhythm and the melody together. Is it going to be a rhythmic improvisation or a melodic improvisation? Is it going to be based around one thing or the other, or is it going to be completely free? What time is it going to be in? Is it going to be in 3/4, 4/4, 5/4, 6/8, 7/8, 15/16, or is it going to be free? And then, of course, what we're going to look at today as well would be the harmonic basis of our improvisation. Is it based on something harmonic? Are the harmonies going to repeat themselves? And that's also linked, of course, to the form. And I've picked a little tune out of our hymn book, our local hymn book here, and it's one of the Agnus Dei hymns that we have here, and it's perfectly written, so I can sort of demonstrate what I'm talking about here. You have the melody, you have, of course, the 3 verses, and then above the melody lines you have these symbols, the chord symbols, telling us which harmonies you need for which bar. And I'm going to use those harmonies and that structure to show you a little sort of introduction to the world of improvising today. All right? So I deliberately chosen this piece of music because it's very simple, certainly from its harmonies. So the chord symbols we have here, we have D, D major, then we have A stroke D, G stroke D, and D again. And this is just in the first line. So D is obvious, that's a D major chord. A, that's an A major chord, but the D beside it means the D is still in the bass. So if you look here, the whole first line, the D stays there in the bass. So we have a D accord, an A accord, a G accord, and then a D accord again, all with a D in the bass. How does that sound? It sounds like this. Okay, so I have a D accord with a D at the top. I have an A accord. A chord, sorry, I'm speaking German and English again, getting all mixed up. An A chord with a C sharp at the top. A G chord with a B at the top. And then finish off with a D chord with an A at the top. Okay? And that has given me a little melody. I don't know if you noticed that. I'll just play the chords, I'll leave the bass note out. That's quite cute, isn't it? Yeah? And that's just one line of this piece of music. So what I've got a melody of my own, and because I've got my D in the bass all the time, I can just play the chords with my left hand. So there I have my own little melody just based around those chords. Quite easy, isn't it, so far? If we look now at the second line of music, we've got some rather different looking chords here. We've got several different letters and an awful lot of numbers here. E, M, that means E minor. So that means, wait a minute, what's this H? H, M7, well, we're in Germany, folks, and in German, H means B. And if I can I find a B anywhere? I don't think there is a B. There's another one there, like G with H in the bass. And an H is a B natural. And in German music, if you see the letter B, it means B flat. Okay? So it's something you have to get used to. Anyway, so we've got E minor. I'm going to say B minor. And then there's a 7 beside. We'll look at that in a minute. G, that's a G major chord. There's no M there. So it's a G major chord with a 6. It's G with an added 6th. And then here we have an A with a 4. So that's an A chord with some kind of 4. And then just a 3, nothing else. Well, what this means is you have an A with a 4, and that sort of resolves itself to a 3. I'll show you that, okay? Let me show you that line. So what have we had there? We have E minor, so that's an E. A minor third, that's a G. And a B or an H. Okay? And then we have this B minor 7 chord. So that's B minor, 5th, and then a small minor 7th on the top. Okay? I'm not going to go into the build-up of harmonies here. Okay? I'm just sort of explaining it very quickly. We're talking about this today. I'll do a video at some point on the basics of sort of harmony and things, but it's basically a minor chord with a minor 7th on top. Okay? So now we have G6, so that's a G major chord, and add the 6th note. What does the 6th note mean? Well, number 1 is always the note itself. So if it's the G chord, G is 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's a G chord with an E on top. Okay? So now we have this funny thing, this A, 4, 3. If I play a normal A chord, I'm going to have my 1, and my 3, and my 5. It's a normal A chord. Now this 4 thing means instead of the 3, just play a 4. So that's this. And then the 3. So that 4-3 resolution appears, okay? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, resolving, 3. Okay? That's as simple as that. So if you come back in, please, and have a look at the music again, the first 4 bars, D, A over D, G over D, D, E minor, B minor 7, G6, A4, 3, and then look at the next 4 bars. They're exactly the same. So it's an A part and then another A part, okay? We're not looking at the melody. The melody is exactly the same as well, but we're not looking at that. So if I play those first 4 bars for you, just the harmony. And that would be bar 5 then, yeah? So we've got 4 bars of music there and a bit of harmony going on in the background. So that is dictating our form and our harmony for this little improvisation. All we need to do now is add a melody. And I've already shown you the first 4 bars. There's a sort of a melody in there already based around a scale of D major. Wouldn't it be cool if the next 4 bars could continue that melody? Well, let's have a look. E minor, I could play the E minor chord with a G at the top, so that would be the next in line. I had an A at the top here, so if I had a G at the top here, that works. B minor 7, I can play that with an F sharp at the top, that works. G6, well that a 6 is the E, so that's perfect. And this 4-3, well that is a movement between D and C sharp, so that is absolutely perfect. How about that? Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. Yeah. So there's a melody already built into the harmonies there. Let me play that to you. Now, of course, it's not the melody of the hymn itself. I'm not playing the melody of the hymn today. I'm going to respect the copyright here and deliberately leave that out. And what I'm just doing, I'm just basing something around the harmonies here. So that's just a scale. It's a D major scale, but it fits perfectly to those harmonies. Or is it the other way around? Do the harmonies fit perfectly to a D major scale? We won't know. But it's a very handy coincidence for our video today. We can't just play scales all the time. We've got to sort of use our imagination to come up with a different kind of melody. So just to recap, we have our scale. And so on and so on. Okay? What other notes am I allowed to use? Theoretically, you're allowed to use any notes you want, but let's just base this around the notes of the chords themselves. So in my D major chord, here's a little bit of harmony teaching here. So my D chord is a, what's it called? A triad. I can't think of the English word there. A triad. 3 notes. So I have a D, I have the third, which is a F sharp, and I have the fifth, which is an A. That's a major triad. And because there are 3 notes there, I can play that D chord in 3 different positions. I can have the D at the bottom, the D at the top, or the D in the middle. Okay? So the same thing goes for my A chord. So there's an A, a C sharp, and an E also in various positions, and the same for the G chord. Okay, so in my second line of music, I have my E minor. So in this case, I have a minor third instead of a major third, so a minor chord. Now I have my B minor 7 chord. So there's a B minor, and I'm adding the 7th to it. It's always the minor 7th, unless otherwise specified, but it's going to be the minor 7th. So now I have 4 notes in that chord, so I have 4 different positions. Yeah. The next chord also has 4 notes. It's a G6, so there's the G chord. And the 6th is then the E on top. Okay? And our last 2 chords are back to kind of triads again. We have this 4-3. I've already shown you that. 4-3. Okay? So, if I only use the notes of those chords, I can play a melody there. So, in the left hand, I'm playing the chords. In my left foot, I'm playing the bass, and my right hand is going to make up a melody only using notes from those chords. Okay? So I wasn't doing my scale thing again. I was just making up a melody based around the notes of those chords. And I'm keeping the rhythm really simple, just 1 note per beat, okay? Now, if I want to make that slightly more interesting or complicated sounding, I can add notes to that. So I add notes in between the chord notes. For example, and if I got my left foot in the right place at the right time, it would have sounded even better. When you're improvising, you're allowed to make mistakes. Here's a little tip from me. If you make a mistake during an improvisation, repeat that mistake and everyone will think it was deliberate. Let's do that again. And so on and and so on and so on. Yeah. So I'm just adding notes in between those chord notes, and already it sounds like a nice little melody on its own. It really is as simple as that at the beginning. I think we'll finish up now with exactly this. I'm going to play a little piece based just around those chords. I'm just going to make something up. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I don't know if it's going to be jazzy or classical or churchy, or I don't know. We shall find out in a moment. So yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around. That was a very sort of basic introduction to the world of improvisation. I don't want to go into any more detail today. That's too much for the beginning. But I'm going to give you some homework. Wouldn't it be great if you went and had a dig around either online or in a sort of a book that you might have of tunes with chord symbols there. Try it yourselves, yeah? Work out what the chords are. Make up a little melody on top. See how you get on. If you want, and if you have the possibility to do so, send me what you've done. You know, wouldn't that be cool? We can have a look at it together. Yeah, see how you get on. I think that's it for today. The guy with the saw outside has stopped, so let's see if we get a decent recording of this. And yeah, let's leave it there for today. There'll be more of this in future videos, so I hope you'll stay tuned, and see you again next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.